Lucy Brenton, the Libertarian, is a finance professional of Indianapolis. She ran for the U.S. Senate in 2012.
Thank you and welcome. My name is Lucy Brenton, and I'm the only reasonable candidate for United States Senate instead of the two bickering old parties. Tonight, you're going to hear a lot of things that you've heard before. You're going to hear that we're supposed to keep sticking our noses into other countries' business, but you as the taxpayer have to pay for it. You're going to hear that they want to build a wall, not me. I want to build bridges. There are three things that our country needs right now. First, we need to protect individual human rights so that we can pursue happiness on our own terms without government interference, as long as you don't hurt anybody else. Second, we need to protect individual economic liberty so that you have the right to earn a living without the government regulating and taxing you to death. And third, we need to leave this world a better place for our kids. Polluters must be stopped. I dream of an America where everyone feels comfortable and welcome, where you feel free to be yourself. They want to tear this country apart. I want to bring our nation together. Please allow your friends and invite them to follow me at #ILoveLucy.
And now we will hear from Senator Donnelly.
I love Lucy too.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to the Indiana Debate Commission, Hoosiers Watching, WTHR, and all the fine stations and internet streaming that's carrying this. I'll tell you what I learned. I learned that it doesn't matter whether you wear red or whether you wear blue. They want control of you. The division is not over civil rights or any good issue. It's really over who gets to control this country. And you can see that whether you're on this side of the aisle or that side of the aisle, the complete focus is on controlling the tax dollars that flow from people. So what needs to happen in this country is we need to come to a baseline of love and harmony, and we need to take away the issue of them trying to control us. It's us versus them. Yeah, thank you. I think as a female, it's important that I stand up here and stand for women, that we should be believed when we come forward. But just because we're women doesn't mean that we are automatically telling the truth. What I'm seeing here is a lot of partisanship. I've had my Me Too moments, but when I looked at this through the lens of logic, I asked myself, would Judge Kavanaugh be the type of judge that would uphold the Constitution? He is a co-author of the Patriot Act. He is no friend of the Fourth or Fifth Amendment. I would have been no from day one. It's going to be an awfully long evening if we just simply listen to them repeat their commercials back and forth to each other. Thank you, Carrie, and congratulations on your PhD candidacy. I'm a little bit torn as an IU grad, but let me answer that question. The Libertarian Party is a set of political beliefs and ideals, and we look through the lens of something very simple. We demand all of our freedoms all of the time. We demand a return to constitutional values and restrictions because the government is supposed to have a muzzle on it. That is the purpose of the Constitution, to allow maximum freedom. Please read the 9th and 10th Amendments for more information. Would I go against my party? Yes, absolutely. But I don't believe that I'll have to, because the lens that we look through is not left or right. The lens that we look through is one of being fiscally conservative and socially accepting, to be able to allow people the maximum freedom with really just two things in mind. Don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. Other than that, you're good with me. Thank you. You know, I'm often torn about who would be my role model in politics, simply because there are so many different people that you can admire, and not always for the right reasons. For example, I admire President Lincoln. Why? Because when a woman said to him, "President Lincoln, you've got to destroy your enemies," his answer was simply, "Madam, I'm going to make my enemies my friends. Does that not destroy my enemies?" But he had some other issues as well. I guess really the question becomes, is there anyone worth admiring? The last politician in modern days that I really admire was John F. Kennedy, because he took a stand and he said, you know what? We're the greatest country in this world, and what we're going to do is we're going to put a man on the moon in 10 years. And we don't know how we're going to do it, but we know that we're going to do it. And it's that sort of inspirational leadership to which I aspire. You know, as long as we're on the subject of right to try, let's talk about right to try cannabis. Let's talk about not doing study after study to determine the effectiveness or safety of cannabis. I've got great news for you. It's been studied for about 10,000 years throughout human history. And how many people have ever died of a marijuana overdose? It's the exact same number as have been gored to death by a unicorn. 0. You know, the problem is with corporations and government regulations, which actually give permission to the corporations on how much they can pollute. I've been boycotting Nestle since 1993. Why have I been boycotting them? Because they're a horrible company, and as Senator Donnelly just alluded to, they're actually draining Lake Michigan and selling it off to the Chinese. This is absolutely ridiculous. We don't need more of this in Washington. We need people that actually stand up for what's right, that will offer real solutions. For example, we need a global cleanup effort to get the plastics and dirt out of our ocean. We need heme iron to seed our phytoplankton so that they're able to actually clean up the oceans for us. We need hemp. Oh my gosh, did I talk about this 2 years ago or what? We need hemp, we need hemp, we need hemp. Why do we need hemp? Because it fixes carbon. Why do we need hemp? Because we don't need ethanol. That's just another government boondoggle that pays off his cronies. I think I may be the only one standing up here that has an organic garden and that composts and recycles and does all that good stuff. Maybe Senator Donnelly does as well. Here's what I know. I know that we have some of the richest soil in the world, and we're wasting it on corn. We could have a much better crop that is already pesticide resistant. We don't have to keep putting dicamba and 2,4-D on our playgrounds or on our corn. We need to protect the Hoosier environment and stop polluting it. If any of you have read my biography, it's probably not a stretch for you to understand why I'm pro-life. I've given birth to 10 human beings, and now I'm a grandma of 2. So when you ask a question like, is a particular Supreme Court decision right or wrong? We've got to ask yourself, who are we protecting? If we don't protect the smallest, most helpless individual, then we're on a downward slide into euthanasia, into killing off our old people so that Social Security doesn't go bankrupt like it already is because there is no trust fund. So the question is, should we or should we not have Roe v. Wade? That's a question for the Supreme Court to answer. And all of you that are worried about Kavanaugh, you can keep worrying about it, because he's not strong on your 4th or 5th Amendment rights either. He's probably not going to be strong on that. Just a quick note. I've faced this decision as a woman. Here's what you need to know. It's no one's business but the person whose body it is. We must each have absolute control over our own bodies. If we don't have freedom in our own bodies to accept or reject any medical care, then we don't have any freedom at all. Candace, as one mom to another, I am sorry for your unimaginable loss. I see my own 5-year-old flashing through my eyes, and I'm grateful that my husband and I are responsible gun owners who keep all of our guns locked. I think that's an important step that, as Senator Donnelly said, with rights come responsibilities. We shouldn't have to pass laws to do this, people. This is common sense. And to have someone as trusted as your babysitter be the one that created such a tragedy is unbelievable. I'm going to call a little bit of BS, though, on the gun show loophole, because I've been to gun shows, I've bought guns at gun shows, and they've always done a background check on me. Second Amendment, very, very strong in the Second Amendment. I think it's absolutely important that we understand the reason the Second Amendment there is it is liberty teeth. Never forget the reason that we have the Second Amendment is because the political attitude of the day was one where we were fighting the global superpower of the day. Should that ever happen, God forbid, in our country, we need to be able to stand against government. Thank you. You know, when I look at Trump and Kim Jong-un and what's going on in North Korea, does it remind anybody of the Austin Powers movie where they're like putting the nuclear warhead in the volcano and it ended the earth? Does anybody remember that, or am I just the only one that like loves pop culture? We have cartoon characters for world leaders. I think North Korea can do better. I think we can do better. Abdul asked me what I thought about Trump, and I said, you know, I really appreciate the fact that he's a cowboy. When you think about America, and there's a great book, by the way, called Culture Code. If you haven't read it, read it. And it talks about America in the respect of being cowboys and independent. I think that posturing by President Trump does let the leader of North Korea know that he may, if he doesn't unilaterally, find himself at the wrong end of one of our nuclear warheads. That does not please me. I do not agree with it. But I do think that the implied threat is there. I've been working with foreign exchange students now for a couple of years, some from predominantly Muslim countries. What that's done is give me absolute hope that teenagers around the world are working for a better world. Very quickly, what you just told me is they were 1 month away, now they're 10 years away. We kicked the can down the road, not handled the problem with a real-world solution, and that means that our children are still going to be dealing with this, and my grandchildren. That does not please me at all. We should be keeping American troops in America. While we're busy defending the borders of other countries, our own border has holes big enough to drive semi-trucks full of illegal aliens through. The security theater that I recently experienced at the Indianapolis airport, Ridiculous. Never caught anybody. Sorry, Homeland Security, but I'm getting real sick and tired of, may I have your papers, please? I think the first thing that we have to do is go right to the Founding Fathers playbook. Friends to all, allies to none. It's the entangling alliances that brought us into World War I and World War II and, the Vietnam War. It's the entangling alliances which put our sons and daughters, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters at harm. American troops should not be fighting those wars. Why in the world are we giving money to foreign governments so that they'll be at peace? What is it, like 10 million a day to Israel and 8 million a day to Palestine? I mean, how do we even do that when at home we have people who are not eating? Food security in our country is absolutely an issue, and we should be talking about feeding our own people first before we start handing out money to foreign governments in the name of peace. It has certainly bought us no peace. Can we talk about free market solutions and take out the government involvement? Everything government does makes us poorer. It's like they take, a liter out of blood in this arm and they put back 10%. It's just insane. Government is currently picking winners and losers in our higher educational system by guaranteeing student loan debt that you can never bankrupt out of. It's an absolute scam, it's a ruse, and it's a big gift to banks that they can be so profitable on the backs of every single one of us. I've been doing mortgages since 1996, and here's what I discovered. You think we had a crisis back in 2008, 9, and 10? You ain't seen nothing yet. When I try and get people, young people qualified who want to have the American dream and be homeowners, they simply can't qualify because their student loan debt is higher than a mortgage. It's absolutely insane. We need free market solutions, and I often tell my own children, consider trade school because they're not outsourcing electrical jobs to China. The problem with healthcare, just like anything else, is that we are disconnected from the cost of it because there's an unseen hand and force moving in our markets, one which we can't control, except at the voting booth, by the way. If you want something change, if you want something new, you've got to vote for Lucy and vote for me and support me because I'm the only one that'll get rid of all of this crap. Here's the problem. Government inserted itself into healthcare in the 1960s. Prior to that, we had doctors coming to your door. Now what do we have? We have out-of-control costs. We have aspirins that cost $1,000 each. Of course it's difficult to have that conversation about pre-existing conditions when we're still worried about $1,000 aspirins. The whole system must be overhauled, but it's clear that government is not the one to do that. Individuals in the free market must be the ones who make the decisions about their own health care. There must be no government force in this. There must be no government mandate to buy anything, because the next thing that they'll be mandating is that you buy Ford over Chevy. And who wants that? What is this really about? This is really about the old parties, whether they wear a red jacket or a blue jacket, trying to force and make you do something that may not be in your own best interests. Should we even have a government that is able to use government force? It's the tip of the government's gun, which is in your face, demanding that you buy health care. This is just one example of a product. It's a slippery slope. We have to take back our power as voters and vote out the people who would steal from your pocketbook, who would force you to buy things that aren't in your best interests. I'm the only outsider. I don't have a $90 million net worth. I'm not part of the 1%. So if you want something that changes in Washington, D.C., if you want somebody that is unabashedly for the Constitution, who demands all of your freedoms all of the time, someone who has never raised taxes on you and never will, that is not in my track record. These two gentlemen, they're part of the problem. And here's the problem, and here's your decision. We can either drain the swamp or we can send in another alligator.